Lacrosse community, my name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by one of the PLL Chaos 2021 champions, Troy Reh. Troy, thank you so much for being with us today. For those in our community who aren't quite aware of your story and how you got into lacrosse and ultimately reached the pinnacle and what we view as viewership of lacrosse, can you share a little bit about your story? How'd you get involved?
Yeah, for sure. First, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this. And I kind of just got into lacrosse. I started playing in 5th grade, actually. So it was kind of the last sport I started playing. But my dad was a big-time lacrosse player on Long Island growing up. So he didn't really want to push myself, and I have a twin brother as well. So he didn't want to push us into lacrosse right away. He kind of wanted to find it on our own. So we played every other sport growing up. I mean, soccer, baseball, basketball, football. Then kind of started playing lacrosse in 5th grade for our PLL team for Rocky Point, where I went to high school. And from there, just kind of fell in love with it and kind of stuck with that and kept growing with it. So yeah, that was kind of how I got involved. I was always around it my whole life growing up. So finally started to play in 5th grade, and that was then the story from there.
And your dad was a big deal, right? He was All-American from Adelphi.
Yeah, he was an All-American in high school. He won the Ray Honors Award, so one of the best players on Long Island his senior year, and then an All-American in Adelphi as well. So he's in the Suffolk Sports Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame for Rocky Point, Adelphi. So you name it. So a little bit of big shoes to fill in our family there.
Well, that's cool to have such big support in terms of the familial legacy that you have to ultimately play lacrosse and continue playing at higher levels. Do you have a pinnacle lacrosse moment or moments over the course of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think just going through every level of playing, there's definitely some wins that definitely stood out to me. But I think just growing up, being around it my whole life and having a twin brother as well, just kind of going through the journey with him was definitely awesome and a cool experience. And something when I was getting recruited to college, it was always something that me and my brother wanted to do was stay together. So it was a cool opportunity to be able to go to the University of Albany with him, and then get drafted to the Lizards with him, and play with him for a year. So I think just the whole journey going with it with my brother was definitely a big moment there. But just breaking it down, like high school, Rocky Point, my high school team won the state championship in 2008, I believe. So when I was about 5th or 6th grade or 7th grade, and just myself, my brother, and our core group of friends. We're obviously at the game and supporting, and just always something that we wanted to be able to play in when we got to the varsity level. So something we always dreamed of. We fell short my senior year. We made it to the Long Island Championship, so we won the county championship. Something we obviously a big dream of ours, and something always we want to see all the teams play on Long Island and Suffolk County. So being able to win that with my group of friends, my brother, my dad was actually a coach. He volunteered was something special. And then in college, probably making it to the Final Four. At Albany, it was the first time in program history getting there, and the outcome once again wasn't what we wanted, but same kind of journey and same type of dream, always going to the Final Four. The Face-Off Classic growing up with my brother and my friends, always something I envisioned and dreamed of, playing in front of all those people in the Final Four. So finally getting there for the first time, like I said, in Albany history, and for our coach Scott Marr, was just an awesome experience there. And then fast forward a little bit, getting drafted to play pro for the Lizards, a hometown team from Long Island. So always just going to those games and watching, and always thinking like, hey, it would be awesome to play pro and play in front of our friends and family back home. It was never something that maybe I envisioned growing up, but it was always like a dream that maybe I thought was attainable, but maybe not. But finally having that experience and opportunity to get drafted by them was something special. And like I said, playing alongside my brother. And we actually played one game with my cousin who played at Stony Brook. So it was the first time we actually ever played all together. So we played one game all together. And obviously my whole family and my friends were there and stuff like that. My grandma, mom, dad. So it was just definitely a great experience. And then once the PLL started, trying to take the leap to that next level, it was definitely here and there, just trying to think whether I want to stay with the Lizards or kind of go over to the PLL. Just the uncertainty of both leagues and just not the unknown. But obviously the best players in the world were going over there. So I just figured that it worked my butt off to get to that point, and I wanted to be the best, and so you got to play with the best to be at that point. So I just figured I worked so hard to get there, so I bet on myself in an instance, and made the leap over the PLL, and obviously it's been good to me so far, winning the championship this past year. So can't complain with that choice.
Oh my gosh. Well, you see yourself fall short, high school, college, and then finally you get that championship, ultimately at the highest level possible. That's a sign of resiliency there.
Yeah, and we lost it too in year 2 of the PLL too. We lost to the Whipsnakes in that bubble season. So kind of all at it. Never finally getting to that steep point of the championship, and then put full circle the following year against the same team we lost was definitely just an amazing opportunity and experience to be a part of.
Oh, I can only imagine how great of an opportunity that is, but also just the battles you had every single day. I mean, getting up early for practices or whatever that looked like at each level. Can you share a little bit about what kept you motivated throughout the course of time, finding lacrosse in 5th grade to today, still showing up and trying to be the best?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the nature of sport and something that you're passionate about, whether it's sports or anything, a club or really anything that you're passionate about, you're going to find time to do. And you obviously want to be, as a competitor, you want to be the best version of yourself and be the best at your sport. So I think that definitely helps motivate me, just trying to be the best as a person and as a competitor on the lacrosse field, to get up in early mornings and do a speed and agility workout or a lifting workout or an on-field workout, whether it's shooting or just footwork and stuff like that. So I think that plays a big part of it. And then obviously you just set goals growing up, right? One goal was to play travel lacrosse on a club team, and then play on my high school team. And then once I got to that level, then go to college at Division I. Like I mentioned before, I play for that Final Four, then play pro. And now that next goal is to play for Team USA. So hopefully it's attainable, and hopefully I get an opportunity to do that. But I think just setting those goals to strive for is definitely something that helps motivate you. And if you're passionate about it, you're going to find time to either work on your craft or to be the best at your specific position or just in the game in general.
And that's where we see specific goal setting is so important, because we know where that destination is. The journey to get there is tough, and we need coaches, we need teammates, we need people setting high standards, and then you hold yourself accountable to that. And if you have the passion, it makes it a little bit easier to wake up early. It makes it easier to do that extra rep, try to go a little bit harder. And I think you're an example of that right now, which is pretty cool.
No, yeah, and I think it just helps prepare you too, right? When you get to those tough games, whether in the 4th quarter or there's a minute left or overtime, I think that just that process that you wake up every day and you prepare yourself for that moment to be prepared to be successful in that game. I think that's the best part, right? It might not be the most fun or the most lucrative thing going at a 7 a.m. workout, but when you get to that championship or one of those big games and you make that play where your team wins, right? You look back at all those 7 a.m. lifts or workouts that you put the time in where you didn't want to, that it all paid off. So I think that definitely helps a lot too as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's those small little things that compound upon themselves and ultimately build. And then when you have the most pressure on you, the confidence is there and you can execute.
Exactly. Yep.
Now, Troy, this conversation is really about leadership and not only the motivation side. Can you tell us a little bit about your beliefs? What does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think leadership is really important, and I think it comes in different ways. I mean, if you just look at different teams, right, you always have a leader that's the spoken one, right? Then that's the motivator, and then there's also teams that have a leader by example. So I think leadership comes in all different forms, and being a captain my senior year at Albany really helped me understand the importance of leadership and just the way to go about it. I think guys react to different types of leadership, right? You might be able to yell at a guy if he's playing poorly or just not doing what he's supposed to be, and that excels his game. But there might be a guy that you do the same thing to, and he kind of goes into a shell, or a girl, right? Whatever you're talking about, goes into a shell and he or she doesn't answer to that. So I think just understanding the nature of an athlete or your teammate or your coworker, whatever type of leadership role you're in, just understanding what they're going through And instead of jumping right at them, right, try to like think really about it, right? They're all people, right? So they might be going through different situations or different experiences, or might be stressed. So there's a lot of different factors that go into it. So I think just being a good leader is someone that understands his or her teammates, coworkers, whatever the situation is, right? Know that they might be going through something. So there's different ways to lead, and there's different ways to talk to different individuals. So just understanding that is a big thing. And then just for the lacrosse related point and the position I was in, right? You go from as a senior all 4 years, right? You see the leadership at different levels as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And then finally, when you're in that role, right, there's a little balancing act of, right, you're trying to be a teammate and you're trying to be the best teammate there is, but you're also trying to be a captain of the team as well, right? So there's a middle ground that you have to go through, right? And sometimes you have to make tough decisions as a leader, and you come off as too strong, or vice versa. But at some points, right, it has to happen. So it's just understanding going into that role when you're elected a leader or a captain, you're taking on that leadership role, that there's going to be some tough decisions that you have to make, and that's the nature of being a leader. But you also have to balance being a good teammate as well, and seeing both sides of the straw, when you are a leader, seeing, right, what the teammates are seeing, and guys that aren't necessarily captain but are still leading, but taking on that role and trying to motivate your team as well. I think, because I think that's the most important quality, is motivating your teammate. And it's always the hardest worker on the team, right? Being a leader, you got to be the hardest worker on the team. So you're leading by example as well, but you're also preaching what you're doing. And I think that's super important, right? So you see teams that have leaders that don't do what they preach, and guys kind of see that, right? And they see through that, and they say, why should I do that if my captain or my leader's not doing it, right? But if you have a guy at the top that's leading by example and doing what he's preaching, right, that makes a successful team, and that's that tight-knit community that you're looking for to be a successful team as well. So,
and I think that's part of the trust. We trust people who are authentic, who have integrity, and if someone's asking you to do something that they're not willing to do themselves, you think, hey, what gives? There's some wiggle room. The standards aren't there, and that's a big point. But you also mentioned leaders sometimes have to make tough decisions, and some things that won't be liked by others. Can you share a little bit more about your experience making tough decisions for the better of the group?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes from, like I said, being a freshman or a younger classman on the team, and you kind of see those seniors or juniors, whoever are the captains or the leaders, right, make some tough calls, and as a younger guy, like, you're just like thinking like, oh, like, does he have to be that hard or stuff like that? But then when you're finally in that role, right, you realize that yeah, like, he does have to make that decision or make that call because he's doing what's best for the team, and some guys might not think it is at that moment, but that captain, the guy you trust, the guy you voted for, the guy the coaches see and put in that position, right, they know he's going to make the right decision, and it's not always like the most fun decision or something you see, right, but it's usually the right decision in most instances. So I think, just like I said, just balancing being a good teammate and being a good leader. There's definitely some perks of it, and definitely some tough situations and tough days, right, where you're kind of being one of the meaner guys. But like I said, it just has to happen sometimes to get the best out of the group, whether they're playing poorly or they're just not giving it their all, right? You just have to sometimes lay the hammer down a little bit just to influence those guys and motivate those guys a little bit.
Absolutely. And you take your prior experiences and you build that into the decision-making process that you ultimately have. And I think that's the best part about lacrosse. You're in a safe environment because you're on the field. There's not really life or death consequences, but what you take from lacrosse affects you in the real world, and you're able to use those experiences to be successful. Can you share a little bit about how lacrosse has affected your life beyond the high school and college environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think every sport really, and I think that's the beauty of playing sports growing up. And if you're fortunate enough and lucky enough to play at that college level and that pro level, everything you're doing in sport, whether it's hard work, your work ethic, the dedication, the teamwork, communication, right? It all applies to real life skills, whether it's in a sport as your profession, or it's in the office or a classroom if you're a teacher, or a police officer, or a firefighter, right? It all applies to whatever role you're taking on after sport or that next profession. So I think it all applies, and it's all fun and games when you're doing it, right? I think that's the best thing about sport, right? You're always learning different things and different techniques to teamwork and communication, and you're constantly growing and adapting. So I think it just helps set you up for that next step in your life, right? When I'm done with lacrosse at some point, because I obviously can't play forever unless I'm Tom Brady, which would be awesome. But it's tough to lose that, something that you've been doing your whole life, right? But it's all those important life skills that you learned throughout the process that helps prepare you for that next level. And just a couple examples of that, right? My coach at Rocky Point, Coach Mike Bowler, he passed away, I think 2 years ago now, maybe 3. But just going through the process, he was actually my dad's high school coach. So he was the only coach in Rocky Point history. A great man, was really important to the lacrosse community in Long Island and Rocky Point as well. But that's something he always preached. He always wanted us to be better people off the field. And that's something he helped teach us throughout high school and just travel ball or stuff like that whenever you saw him. So it was definitely a good mentor to have as a coach. And then just going on to Albany as well, and Coach Scott Marr, right? Everything that he taught us was preparing us for after lacrosse or after we graduated and went to the real life where we're not playing. So I think those are the best coaches that realize that's not all about lacrosse and can kind of connect the two and help prepare you. And those are some of the best motivators and some of the best people that you want to play for as well, right? They understand what you're going through there on the field, but they're also using their experiences outside of lacrosse as well to help you prepare and do that as well. So
yeah, I think the best leaders want to help their team reach their fullest capacity, and that's not only as a collective team, but it's as an individual unit. And we all have personal goals, familial goals, business goals, or sports goals, and if we can support each other in that, we're able to ultimately see success. And I know you've made lacrosse your career. Can you share a little bit about that now?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough. This is a little over a year now. If it's at that point, I'm not even sure. I don't remember exactly. I think I started in November of the academy side of it. But yeah, I'm just doing lacrosse full time right now. So my role is training coordinator for PLL Academy. So what that entails is just setting up clinics, camps, and different training events for the next generation of lacrosse players all around the country in the United States to kind of just prepare themselves for that next level and have different opportunities and experiences to get first class training from some of the best lacrosse players in the world. So just traveling a lot, doing that. But like I said, I'm just fortunate enough for the PLL and the academy side of it to give us this platform to be able to share everything that I've grown up loving, just opportunities maybe that I didn't have growing up to go to Kentucky to do a training event like we talked about earlier, going to Arizona this weekend to put on a players tour and a high school combine. So it's just I'm just grateful for that opportunity that, like I said, that the PLL and Mike and Paul Rabel gave us and that platform. But now just giving back to that next generation of players. I tell them all the time, right? I hope one day in 10 or 15 years that I look back and I remember a guy that I worked with at Kentucky that's playing in the PLL now, and I can see that. So it's just awesome to grow the game. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love to do. So like I said, I'm just grateful for the opportunity that the sport has given me to kind of give back there.
Oh, I love that you're so focused on giving back, Troy, and that's one of my big things as well. What do you tell these guys at the high school combine that want to play in college and ultimately go to the PLL?
Yeah, I mean, I think just understanding how much of a grind and responsibility it is, kind of playing at that next level, right? Division I is a full-time job, just to play lacrosse, and on top of school as well, right? So just understanding that going into the process, going through the recruiting, right? Because I know recruiting is stressful, and some of their friends are committing and such not, right? Growing up, I was always a smaller guy growing up, so I was kind of one of the last guys to commit in my friend group, and back then it was when you can kind of commit at any age. So I think the rule of being able to commit 11th grade September 1st on is really good for the next generation and just these guys growing up that are kind of late bloomers. And it's a little bit less stressful when they're in 8th or 9th grade, not knowing where they're going. So they have a little bit of time to think about it. But like I said, just knowing the responsibility and how much it really takes to play at that next level and to excel. But the most important part is just have fun, right? I see it all the time of even these younger guys playing club, and the guys I work with, right? They're so worried about getting better, and they have so much pressure on them from whether it's their parents, their club coaches, high school youth coaches, or even just themselves, right? They're putting so much pressure on them that they're losing the love for the game at such a young age, and they're overworking themselves. So I tell all of them, right, to play other sports, find different hobbies that you like to do, just to get yourself away from whatever your end game is, whether it's lacrosse, whether it's football, basketball, whether it's a club in college, it's an instrument, it's theater, whatever it is, right? You got to step away a little bit because you don't want to lose that passion. You don't want to be overworked. You don't want to use burnout, right? You don't want to get to that point, because once that happens, right, it's tough to kind of fall back in love with it. So, I mean, just for me personally, right after the season, I take a week or two, maybe a little longer, depending on how my body feels, just away from lacrosse. And I work on, and I focus on different things. And it just helps me come back to the game. And I just realized, right, how much I really love the game, how much I missed it for those, right, whether it's a week or it's 2 days, right, you always want to go back to that, what you're passionate about. So I think, just like I said, just having fun, especially at that young age, is super important. It's a fun sport. It's why you do it. So even when you're in college and high school, right, it's just have fun with it. It's a great sport. So whatever you do, just make sure you're having fun.
The fun part is just such a big deal. If you have that passion, you're able to go through so much. I know we're wrapping up on time right now, Troy, so I'd love to hear if you have any last thoughts on lacrosse or leadership for us.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I think it's one of the best sports around. It's the fastest growing sport, and there's just so many different compartments of it. And I think the beauty of lacrosse is you don't have to be the biggest, you don't have to be the fastest, the strongest, right? You can be really any shape, you can be any speed, you can be really any size. It's all about the stick that's in your hands. If you can work on your stick and have a good stick, that's the secret sauce to lacrosse, right? Is having good stick skills. You'll find a spot on the field. So you don't have to worry about. Like I said, I was smaller growing up. I played defense with a 6-foot pole. I was 5'7". The pole was bigger than me, and it probably still is a little bit. But if you have a good stick, right, you're a hard worker. Your work ethic is unbelievable. You're going 100%. You're gonna find a spot on the field. So don't worry too much about being the fastest, the strongest, the biggest. And I know it helps, but like I said, there's so many guys out there that aren't the fastest, strongest, the biggest, that are so successful and some of the best lacrosse players in the world. So with whatever you do in life, whether it's lacrosse or any sport, right, have fun, right, enjoy it, camaraderie with your friends, right. That's what it's all about, is building relationships and enjoying those times with your friends and your family, whether it's at tournaments or just the practices, and just enjoy the process, right? It's all about having fun at the end of the day. Don't make it too stressful on yourself.
Oh, Troy, thank you so much for the time today, sharing your perspective of lacrosse leadership and everything that you're up to give back to the game. We thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I'm excited to kind of get out to Arizona this weekend, first time ever. So looking forward to that.